Do you feel America is sort of redeemable, Balaji? I mean, you've moved to, out of America. So I do
Sure.
feel like would there ever be a scenario where you could see America being a good place for you to put your resources, your talent, your time, and your money?
I mean, obviously, like, this is a very complicated topic that's hard to reduce to just a soundbite. But I think the short version is have always been, and I'm still in favor of American values. Mm-hmm. I think the particular American state and establishment has traduced those values broadly. And in particular, the U.S. was the undisputed hyperpower of 1991. With even moderately good management, you could have had probably 100 years of peace and prosperity, something like that, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what's happened is the U.S. establishment over the last 30 years has probably blown the biggest lead in human history. San Francisco is being turned into like this, open air drug den.
Failed state, failed city, failed city. I mean, to the north here, I can make failed city.
Yeah, exactly.
It's happening here too. I mean, in San Diego used to be the last bastion. Now there's homeless camps that stretch for 5 square city blocks. And I've had the mayor on my podcast. He's a Democrat, Todd Gloria. I've had Republicans on, and it seems like there's just unwilling to really take on these huge challenges, which, as you're saying, we have the resources. I mean, California is the 4th largest economy in the world now.
It's not. It's not. In fact, actually, in some ways, it's the money is the bad part, because many poor countries around the world manage basic functional civil order. They have far less money. The money is not the constraint at all. It's actually the wrong belief system. And it took me a while to understand what the heck was going on, because, with communism, at least I kind of understood it at the level of, okay, let's all gang up and rob this rich guy and have some ideological justification for that, right? Genghis Khan, but with an ideological overlay, that's like Stalin, right? So communism, at least I didn't agree with it, but I understood it, okay? With, the wokeness that has taken over these cities, I'm like, what political ideology would actually want to cover a city in feces? Like, that just seems negative sum for everybody. That's not even like,
it's not
communism
helping.
Communism is at least marketed as zero sum. Okay, we will all rise while we rob this rich guy. Why is he rich? Well, I get that, even though I think it's bad, because I think it's actually negative sum. What actually happens is the poor and the rich guy both end up in the gulag. Everybody loses. But with wokeness, I was like, why do people want to like cover the streets in poop? That seems obviously the bad. Then I realized that actually a lot of these activists, and that's actually where it's a big part of what's driven by. They have this mental model that, some captain of industry walks out of his high rise and he steps in poop, and now he understands the plight of those who he's normally pushed out of sight. If you notice, when we talk about the homeless, these folks will say, well, I'm so sorry it's visible to you, huh? As if it had just existed and now it's suddenly being made visible to you, as opposed to what's actually happened, which is that the provision of syringes and, quote, safe injection sites and so on has actually created a gigantic class of folks who are either drug abusers and or mentally ill and or have some issue where, you can decompose the, quote, homeless problem. The word doesn't actually encompass it. There's folks who are addicted to drugs. There's folks who are mentally ill. There's folks who are criminals. There's folks who just want to live on the streets and just have, a handout or what have you. And then there's folks who are genuinely, for whatever reason, down on their luck and living in a car or a van. But that last group is not the same as someone who will just, poop on the street and smash somebody with a
right. They're different populations. Yeah,
it's different populations, right? And actually, the term, quote, homeless conflates fairly different things. So first of all, you're mislabeling it. The word is wrong because you think, that means we need to build more houses. Housing is not a cure for mental illness. Right. Okay, girders are, it's just totally different things. You're conflating two different things, and so they just have the wrong concepts on this. And, once you realize that this activist is looking forward to this, captive industry being humiliated and seeing the plight of the poor, finally, you realize that actually what these folks are doing is they're kind of using the homeless as native advertising in the following sense. And what does that mean? That means more budget to, quote, solve the homeless problem. And that actually means more budget for syringes and these billboards in San Francisco that say something like, snort crack, but don't inject it.
Right. Heroin. Right. Yeah. Say, can't go too hard. They might be a sponsor of the podcast, so please don't be too harsh on them.
Okay. Sure. Fine. So no overdose, right? Change it up. Injecting drugs carries the highest risk of overdose. So try smoking or snorting instead. Okay.
And crop rotation.
Yeah. They put these on buses. And of course that, this is marketed as being actually, being real. Come on, man. Obviously, it's naive to say people won't use drugs. So therefore we just need to kind of meet reality where it is and so on. This is like the total opposite of people being like, oh, okay. Everyone's going to be racist. So therefore we just kind of need to meet reality where it is on this. Right. So on some,
it's like saying like a wife, her husband's going out of town and she says, oh, in case you cheat on me, please use a condom. I mean,
well, right. It's basically something which is like, they are, what's actually happening. And this is the key step in this whole cycle that I had to realize, that homeless industrial complex, when it gets budget, it increases the size of the homeless problem.
So it's not a budget. Right.
Well, that's right. In fact, it's opposite. What happens is the number of, quote, activists and this homeless industrial complex has grown with the homeless population itself. So it's the feed the pigeon society. Look at all these pigeons. Oh my God. And they're actually creating the problem. They are exacerbating the problem, and they are paid to exacerbate the problem, and they're paid to not understand that they're exacerbating the problem. Whether you call it natural selection, I doubt it's like fully conscious, but their actions are making the problem worse. And therefore,
if they care about, right. I mean, mental illness is not going to be cured by, safe syringes, and drug problems certainly won't be either. But it's like, that's the Band-Aid that, covers up the, the triangular knife blade scar. And it's like, what would it take to return your business back to California? I mean, to be crude about
it. I don't know. I mean, like, what does it take to return your business back to Detroit? What does it take to return your business back to like that? How about bring it back to Greece or Rome? Like, I think that era in civilization is over.
And I'm not like, I shouldn't suppose that you're not happy where you are. I'm
sorry.
Sorry if I'm saying.
No, I understand what you're saying. I mean, I can give a recipe. I'll come to that in a second. One thing I want to say also is basically, if one of the things that's recently finally being kind of featured in the press is like the mothers of these drug addicts, right? Mm-hmm. Like mother of addict slams, San Francisco open air drug policies. Basically, these mothers are seeing that their kids who were borderline, their addiction is being enabled by this homeless industrial complex, right? So that is actually the angle where you can see this is not compassionate. No. It's actually zombifying a previously functional human being in the name of, quote, compassion, but it's actually, turning somebody into a dependent when they could have potentially stood on their own feet and been independent with a different, form of intervention. Right. Mm-hmm. Charity, in order for it to continue, they have to be poorer than you. They have to be in a dependent role, et cetera. Right. So a huge part of this stuff is, in my view, a combination of gaining status while having a crew of dependents. It's the same process that was run overseas in many of these, quote, third world countries to keep people dependent. That's now being run in American cities. Now, you said what would have to change to come back to California? I gave a. Again, I think of this as highly implausible, but let's just do it for the mental exercise, right? Someone asked me about this with like the chips thing, and I was like, because I was like, you can't ban your way to number one. Okay, this is this recent thing where we say, and it's like, how to become number one in tech. Okay, here's some obvious points for STEM education, not math is white supremacy. For technology, like a pro tech culture, not lol tech bro, right? For skilled immigration, not like multi-100-day visa delays for like basic things. You know, you can't even get like a B1 or whatever it comes to.
Yeah,
like
H1B. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, but actually different. H1B is like a permanent work visa. B1 is just like a visitor visa, right? That itself, there's 100-day delays to attend a conference. You're not even trying to immigrate. To attend a conference is a huge pain, right? Mm-hmm. Pro wealth creation, not abolish billionaires, right? Pro civilization, not what's happening in San Francisco, right? And I think, unfortunately, I mean, civilizations have like a heartbeat, you know, and in different ways, like China and India and other civilizations are like on the rise, and like, look, Blue America is just in some fundamental ways on the decline. In some ways, they're still actually, they've got something. I mean, what do I actually think happens? It's possible. This is the somewhat dystopian outcome, not somewhat, very dystopian outcome, which is, you know, San Francisco actually hasn't been pushed to the limit of what it could be. If you take it to the limit, you have a few engineers coding AI in their rooms with, you know, DoorDash being delivered, and outside a, you know, sea of fatherless, drug addicted zombies that, you know, these NGOs are getting addicted on syringes. Like, how far can you push that, right? San Francisco is like running the experiment of like, you know, like basically turning a previously functional city into shanty towns and a few tech people, right? I don't think the tech people are causing that. No. I think they managed to survive despite that. I think it's the NGOs. I think it's the government, the state that is causing that. But the tech people are indirectly subsidizing it by being present. And by paying, they are themselves enabling the enablers, right? By living in San Francisco, you are voting for more San Francisco.
This was just a teaser. To make sure you don't miss the full episode with Balaji, click here and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the notification bell.